it's Nicole again, and today I'm sharing how I made this night scene card using distress inks and watercolor. If you follow my blog, you already know that I actually got this idea from Pinterest and I wanted to try recreating it using some of my own paper crafting tools, and I actually really love the way it came out. So the Lawn Fawn tools I'm going to use is this Wild Rose ink, the Stitch Scallop Cupcake Wrapper die, the mini stamp set Really Like You, this is so cute. I'm also going to be using the Stitch Circles die. I'm going to be using this 3-inch circle here. And from the small rectangle stackables, I'm going to be using the 5-inch by 3 3/4 of an inch die, along with the Beachside Petite paper pack. I really love all the colors in this pack. I think that this works really well with the nighttime scene that I'm going to be creating. I used that paper there, but I think this time around I'm going to try a different color. So to start off, I'm going to be creating my masks with some contact paper that I bought at the 99-cent store. If you've seen a couple other of my videos, you know that I like using this contact paper. Well, because it's cheap and it comes in like a really big roll from the dollar store. But if you have large size Post-its or your own masking paper that you bought online from a craft store, that will work. Anything will work for this, but I just really like using this roll of contact paper. So I went ahead and cut out the rectangle using the size 5 inches by 3 3/4 of an inch from the small Stitch Square Stackables die set. Now I'm going to be using the 3-inch Stitch Circle from the large Stitch Circle Stackables set. And I'm just going to go ahead and run that through to create the mask for the moon. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and use this Stitch Scallop Cupcake Wrapper die to kind of create a hill on this mask. And you could use any kind of curved die that you have for this. I just thought this would be perfect because I wanted it to be a perfect hillside. And this is going to give me 2 different masks, one for the sky and then one for the hill. Now I'm taking this watercolor paper by Tim Holtz, and I'm going to go ahead and use the same die that I used to create the mask to create the card panel where I'm going to be doing all of the distressing and watercoloring. And this is how the masks are going to work. I'm going to have one for the sky and then one for the grass. So now I'm going to go ahead and move over to my craft mat work surface. I'm going to peel off the backing for this mask and adhere it to this distress watercolor cardstock panel. Just like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and start creating the grassy scene using the Distress Ink Shabby Shutters. That's the first one that I'm going to be using. I'm using my mini ink blending tool here to apply this ink. Okay, and next I'm going to go ahead and start using Bundled Sage. And I'm moving on to Peeled Paint. I wanted to try to get it to look a little bit more vibrant, so I'm using Peeled Paint, and after that I'm going to go ahead and use Mowed Lawn. You could only use one green color if you want, but I kind of just wanted to have a little bit of fun with my distress inks and kind of layer them all together to get the look that I was trying to achieve. But if you only have one color, that will work perfectly fine as well. Next I'm going to go ahead and move over to Black Soot, and I'm going to start creating the shadows here. So I'm just coming in from the bottom only, and I want to leave a little bit of green up at the rim of the hill here, just to make it look like the moon from like the moon was backlighting that hill and just creating a little bit of color on the rim of that hill. Okay, and I think that looks great, so I'm going to go ahead and peel off this mask here, and I'm going to get the other mask that I created and put that over the hill here just to cover it. And I think because I put so much distress ink on it, it was having a little bit of a hard time sticking onto the area where there was distress ink, so you'll see here that I'm going to take some low-tack tape and then just like secure it and make sure that it doesn't move while I'm applying the ink for the sky. Okay, now that the moon mask is secure, I'm going to go ahead and take Chipped Sapphire and I'm going to start blending that from the top here. I think this color is amazing. And I had to mention too, in between changing colors here of Distress Ink, off camera I went ahead and cleaned off my surface so that none of the green colors would mix into this sky color here. Okay, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of black soot, but I'm not going to make it as dark as I really want it yet, because I noticed that when I created this card originally, when I added the watercolor, it kind of leaked through the mask a little bit and changed the way the Distress Ink looks, so I ended up having to go over it again to make it a little bit darker so that you couldn't see the mistake that I made. And so I'm just going to go ahead and not make it as dark as I want to at first, until I do this part here where I'm going to use the negative part of the mask that I created for the moon. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay this over on top. And then I'm going to start doing the watercoloring to make a realistic looking moon. And then I think also the reason why the water kind of seeped through was because of the amount of Distress Ink that I had, and I guess it kind of was hard for the mask to stay adhered, and then it kind of leaked through a little bit. So now I'm going to be using squeezed lemonade and ice spruce to create this realistic looking moon. So just so that you could see the color, I went ahead and put down a piece of paper and the acrylic block, and then I went ahead and applied the ink to that and spritzed it with a little bit of water. I also have a cup off to the top right of more water so that I could kind of spread it out a little bit more. When I created the first card like this, when I did the moon, it had a little bit more gray and less yellow, but this time I wanted to try to put a little bit more yellow in and just see how that looks, so I think it's coming out really cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of spread out this ink here. So I'm doing both of the like wet on dry and wet on wet just so that I could make it look a little bit realistic. I didn't want to do fully wet on wet because then it blends really quick and really easy. So I just wanted to make it look a little spotty. So I did a combination of both. And at first here you can see that I was trying not to get too close to the contact paper because like I said, it did kind of leak through really easily. And I'm pretty sure maybe if I had another type of masking paper, maybe that wouldn't happen, but I'm not sure. I think this is the first time I've ever done watercoloring with a mask like this, so it's just trial and error for me. And now I'm kind of starting to spread it out a little bit to the edges. It didn't leak through as much as it did the first time when I was pulling it inwards like this. Okay, and then off camera I went ahead and used my heat tool to set that because I didn't want to wait for it to dry, only because I didn't want the video to be that long. But as you can see here, as I'm pulling off the mask, it did leak through just a little bit. So I was happy that it didn't leak through as much as it did the first time. Okay, now I'm going to take the moon mask and I'm going to go ahead and reapply it just so that I could kind of cover up those leak spots. And I'm coming back in with the Chipped Sapphire and I'm just going to go ahead and make it a little bit darker. And see how easy it was just to cover that? So that worked out pretty well. And now I'm going to come in with black soot and just make that sky a little bit darker. Okay, and now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and start removing all the masks really carefully. I think the reason why I like using contact paper is because it is a really, really low tack, so when I'm peeling it off of the watercolor paper, it never usually rips it. The way that like this tape, sometimes it kind of rips my watercolor paper, so I have to be really careful, but the contact paper never does that, so that's why I love it. Got a little bit of a leak there on the grassy hill, but I could probably just cover that when I do the stamping and when I draw the shadows. So I'm just going to take the little critter image here, and I want to make it look like they're running over the hill. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that in some Memento Tuxedo black ink. Just going to stamp that right over here. And just like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and start my Copic coloring. And as you can see here, you couldn't tell from the picture that I shared during the Lawn Fawn Inspiration Week, but I did actually color these in the way I wanted to first, and then I went over it with a really dark gray marker to create the shadows, but I didn't want it to look like a flat image, so that's why I went ahead and colored it like this first. But this is something you could skip. This is totally optional. And now I'm going to come in with the Cool Gray C5 just to create that shadow, and I'm going to go over it a couple of times to make sure that it's really dark. And if you can see here, I'm leaving a little bit of the actual color of the critter on top because I just wanted it to look like kind of the same as the hill, where it was just like the rim of the critter or the rim of the hill that had the actual color, and then everything behind the moon was going to be really dark, or in front of the moon, to create that backlighting. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and free draw the shadow here. It was a little bit hard, especially from the camera angle that I was at, but all I'm trying to do here is just create like a mirror image. And I think that these shadows add so much to the card, so I'm really glad that I did this. And one thing I love about this card is that it's a one-layer card panel, so I think that's really cool, and it was really easy to create. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and take the Wild Rose ink, and I'm also going to be taking that really small heart that comes in this stamp set, and I'm going to add that to the middle here. I think that looks so cute. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and start adding the stars using my white jelly pen. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish that off camera because I don't want to have you watch me create this. Might be a little bit boring. Okay, now that that's finished, I think that looks amazing. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of more of shine here to the little critters like this. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of like a sparkle to their eyes. Just like that. A little bit of a moonlight in their eye. And then a little bit of shine here on the little pieces of grass. Okay, and now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and pick out another sheet of pattern paper. And this is the original one that I use, and I think that looks amazing too. But I'm just going to go ahead and try out a different one to see how that looks. And I love the way these dark pattern papers just look amazing with this, so that's probably what I'm going to go with. That one there. I feel like it matches really nicely. So off camera, I went ahead and cut that down to size for an A2 size card panel. And I'm also going to be creating the little sentiment here on that, the leftover paper from this little pattern paper piece that I created. I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that to the front of the card base like so. I think I actually did it a little bit crooked, so I had to pull it off and then do it over again. It's really hard for me to kind of get everything centered and straight from where I'm standing because I have the camera right in front of me, but that's okay. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add some 3D adhesive foam to the back. And then really quickly create this little this little panel for the sentiment. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Versamark ink and some white embossing powder just to make that pop out on this really dark pattern paper. And then I have my heat tool plugged in somewhere else, so I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. And that came out perfect. So next I'm going to take a serrated edge scissor, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut that just like that. I've been really loving the way that looks lately, so if you see me do that a lot, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I really like doing that more now than the flag end. I think this one looks really fun. Okay, so I just went ahead and peeled off the backing on that adhesive. I'm going to go ahead and apply this to the card panel. I wanted to use that particular 3D adhesive foam because there was a little bit of warping on the panel here with all the images. So to make it flat again, I just wanted to use that. It works really well for doing that on watercolor paper. And that's the finished card. I hope you had a lot of fun watching this, and I can't wait to actually try this with all the different types of Lawn Fawn critter images and things like that, especially with a lot of the old sets that Lawn Fawn has. I think they would work absolutely perfect for this type of thing. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!